Education Pe Charcha from across the world. I would like to welcome all of you to today's show, that is Education Pe Charcha. This is Vivekanand Jha, author, academician, and a public intellectual. My dear viewers, those of you who have been watching our program, because it is I would like to make an announcement, especially for those who are tuning in for the first time to be a part of this particular bandwagon, that is Education Pe Charcha. This is our 4th session. We have already had 3 sessions in the past, and just this is a unique program meant for educating the nation, especially the students community, because all of you would appreciate that in today's contemporary scenario, as soon as you tune in to any television channel, we have got all sorts of political news, being dished out to the people. All sorts of pedestrian and hackneyed stuffs are being dished out. So therefore, we decided to take this particular, or rather kickstart this particular program on Education Pe Charcha, so that especially to the students communities, who absolutely appear to be downcast as the sort of humongous cataclysm has engulfed the entire world. In such situations, students community, though especially the children, or at the juvenile age or even at the lower age, they appear to have lost anticipating all sort of ghoulish situation to unfold in the future. To dispel any such negative notion and to foster positivity and harmony, especially in the students communities of all age and stature and all age and all sort of different categories, and even to the intelligentsia class, we have launched this program, that is Education Pe Charcha. My dear viewers, as I was trying to tell you, this is the 4th session. We have already had 3 sessions. First, we started with the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Jagannath Patnaik sir. He is the Vice Chancellor of ICFAI. Then we had Dr. Rajesh Singh ji. He is the Vice Chancellor of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay University, Gorakhpur. We had on the corporate executive, JA, Insurance JA, Shri Sanjay Kumar Jha. And today it is the 4th unique session, with another giant, a jar of stock exchange, jar of capital market, Shri Ajay Thakur ji, a man with an overall experience of 26 years to his kitty, who has negotiated with the several different features of stock exchange, and man who was the pioneer in terms of launching the startup for the SME, so that that there lies his overall credibility. Because today, when he will address all of us, all the viewers, definitely there will be some sort of genuinity will come out of his comments, out of the experience that he's going to share with all of us. So therefore, without wasting much of time, straight away I would like to say something, because as I was trying to share with you about the experience of Shri Ajay Thakur ji, he is in fact he is a personification of versatility so far as the capital market is concerned. I have had a unique opportunity of being an audience, of listening to his versatile experience in the field of startup in SME. And so therefore we are just going to start for it's very, very important, my dear viewers, just to tell you something about Sri Ajay Thakur ji, because I would not be able to do justice to his overall persona if I am not going to inform or update all my viewers about all his exploits, about all his achievements. So it becomes all the more incumbent on my part to share with all of you his very rich experience as well as his versatility that he has come to symbolize over a period of 26 years. Now let us know something about Shri Ajay Thakur ji, a professional of around 26 years of experience in the capital market. He's the key roles that Shri Ajay Thakur ji had played thus far, or hitherto, his key functions that he had thus far discharged: setting up the depositories by the regional stock exchange, developing derivatives, developing derivatives and equity market, and setting up SME and startup platform. As I was trying to tell you before that he is the man who is the pioneer in terms of kick-starting the startups, which is what is a slogan of the incumbent government of the Prime Minister, that is the startup, which is the budge of the world in the contemporary times. He is the man who is credited, or rather to be credited, for having been the harbinger of this new dawn. So next, he is the executive committee member of Indian Merchant Chamber, Judy Chamber of SME. In the career of 26 years, he has worked in various capacities with organizations such as Stockholding Corporation of India, Vadodara Stock Exchange, and BSE. He is credited for launching the first year SME platform and startup platform in India on 13th March 2012. So since 2012, it has come into existence, and the man who is an architect for the same is none but Shri Ajay Thakur ji. So BSE today is the largest SME platform. Mind you, his contribution has triggered the rise of BSE as one of the most exalted platform for those startups. Now, SME platform in India with 340 companies listed, already 340 companies listed, and 64 companies are in the pipeline of getting listed. Now, overall, the amount it has raised 34.62 crores with market capitalization of 100 crores. Now, in one of the annual issues of 2013, Asian Development Bank has appreciated the effort of Bombay Stock Exchange SME for promoting SME listing in India. So he is the man who has introduced the listing of Bombay Stock Exchange. Listing of small companies. Means say MSE, SME, that is small micro enterprises. Now, BSE has signed MOU with various state government of Uttar Pradesh, government of West Bengal, government of Haryana, government of Telangana, government of then Yes Bank. It has also signed MOU with HDFC Bank, IIT, Alumni Council, and Gujarat Student Startup and Innovation Hub to create awareness about BSE startup platforms. So these in fact, these are this is something the gist of his overall exploits, overall achievement. He has done so much, such a monumental works that he has to his credit. If I go on describing about entirety of his work, possibly the entire program will get exhausted in the comprehensive discussion of his description of his entire exploits. So in gist, I try to explain you about the overall activities, an overview of the work that Sri Ajay Thakur ji has done. So this is what exactly are his exploits. Now I am welcoming Sri Ajay Thakur ji, our honored guest for today's scintillating discussion, a scintillating interaction with one of the jars of capital market. So, before I just ask you, I would like you to throw some light on your overall experience of 26 years with Bombay Stock Exchange SME, and let our viewers know exactly what this stock exchange is all about. What is the overall significance of the so-called Sensex? Because even at times I fail to understand its overall implication. A small incident, occurring even in the remotest part of the world, triggers the rise and fall, the fluctuation in Sensex. So it would be so kind of you, to explain us in detail, especially after throwing light on your own, achievement thus far with Bombay Stock Exchange MSC, and the significance of this, the meaning or the connotation of the word Sensex. Your take on, sir. I introduce Sri Ajay Thakur ji, our honored guest today, the director of Bombay Stock Exchange SME. And now it is your take, sir. Please, Sri Ajay Thakur ji.
Thanks, Vivekanand ji. I am really honored to be on your platform and very much grateful that you had given me the opportunity to address your audience. In fact, let me tell you that I am from Bihar and Charcha district. I landed in Mumbai in 1994, joined the Stockholding Corporation of India. And since 96 December, I am with BSE. I was heading the arbitration. Again, it's something legal that is between the investors and the members I was taking care of. And after that, I was looking after the business development department of BSE. And in 2011, I have been given the responsibility to launch the SME exchange, the first ever SME exchange of India. And in 2012, that is on 30th March 2012, we have launched the first ever SME exchange, or you can say that SME platform of India. As far as my experience is concerned, in BSc, of course, it was always challenging, exciting. I enjoyed a lot. And, a stock market is a place where risky instrument is being traded, okay? And, most of the times it's intangible in nature. You can't see, it's more of the book entry. You see the markets being volatile, you see the markets fluctuating. And most of the times, the pendulum swings between high optimism and high pessimism. And, many of the times we have seen people getting swayed away, carried away by, this volatility. So it's always have been exciting. You are at the midst of all these happenings, whatever is happening, whether at domestic arena or international arena, it keeps on, keeping you on toes. And we are very much a regulator, self-regulatory organization. We have to regulate all the investors, all the corporates, all the intermediaries, all the, other people who are, associated with the stock exchange. At the same time, we have to ensure that the investors' interest should be properly taken care of. But yes, there is a huge flow of, money from and out of the stocks which are being traded onto the stock exchange, and that keeps the people on toes. So, but let me tell you that in the life, if there is no excitement, it becomes a dull life. So I like excitement. I always like the fire in the belly. And I always have this tendency to contribute to the growth of the nation. And by grace of God, I have, God has been very much kind enough to give me those opportunities whereby I keep on accepting the challenges and, changing those challenges into opportunity and keep on contributing to the growth of the nation and growth of the stock exchange and creating the employment. Now you have asked a very pertinent question about the Sensex. Let me give you a brief, brief introduction about the Sensex. But prior to that, let me also talk about BSE. You know that the BSE is the oldest stock exchange, not only in India, but in Asia. It was formed on 9th July, 1875. It was established. And prior to that, people were trading under the banyan tree. Some people come along and, there was a banyan tree under which these people used to trade. And finally, everything was brought into the formal structure. And on 9th July, 1875, it was given the name Native Stockbrokers Association, which later on got converted into BSE, or, at that point of time, it was called Bombay Stock Exchange. Now it is called BSE. So it was the first stock exchange, not only in India, but in Asia. And since then, it has helped the corporates raise funds, contribute to the growth. But at one point of time, and in fact, it was the first stock exchange when Security Contract Regulation Act came in 1956. 1956, it was the first stock exchange to get the recognition under that act. So, of course, the first stock exchange, we set the equity culture in the country, and around it, most of these corporates start flourishing or getting transformed into large corporate or blue chip companies. Now, there was a time come when, it was thought that there should be some barometer which gives a pulse of the Indian capital market, and also give some direction to the economists and to the government that in which direction the economy is moving, they could understand. And therefore, the management of the stock exchange thought of launching Sensex. Okay, this Sensex was comprising of 30 blue chip company, 30 large company. So it was formed in the year 1986. On 1st April 1986, Sensex was formed. But, because for everything you have to take a base year. So the base year was taken as 79, was the base year. That 1st April 1979 was taken as the base year, where it was said that here the index was trading at or index was, Sensex was 100. And from there, it was taken, the figure was taken as the base figure. And in 1986, this Sensex was launched. And since then, if you see this 7,900 as base, today the Sensex is quoting somewhere around 53,000. So almost more than 500 times the Sensex has given the return. It gives you a clear picture that which direction the economy is going, or which direction economy is perceived to be going, in what way there is a fund inflow into the market, how the fund outflow is going. If the fund inflow is coming into the country, it gives an impression that the outside investors, the foreign institutional body and the international institutions have a lot of faith into the economy of the country, into the democracy of the country. And at the same time, we have seen the emergence of a lot of mutual funds, which also, because of the census going up or down, they can think of, benchmarking the performance of their funds vis-a-vis Sensex. So overall, this Sensex has done a wonderful job, and it has become not only the barometer of the Indian capital market, but it has also become the barometer of Indian economy. And it gives the direction to each and every one that how the policy decisions are being taken and in what way they should keep on taking policies. So that's how the Sensex has played a very important role in deciding all these factors.
It's so nice of you to have given us some sort of comprehensive idea as to the overall modus operandi of Sensex. But one thing still, the question remains that even some incident which might appear insignificant, rather inconsequential, how does it impact the Sensex? Because at times we see, we have witnessed that certain incidences which were basically insignificant, not having much of implications either on the Indian polity or economy or on the world economy or world polity, but nevertheless it has impacted the Sensex, or you can say volatility of Sensex. So therefore, we would be, I would like you to throw some light as to how even such inconsequential incident is impacting the overall stock exchange market in terms of the, the volatility or the movement of the Sensex as such.
See, ultimately, but any action in the underlying stocks determine the valuation of the Sensex. Okay, so Sensex comprises of 30 companies. Sometimes what happens in these 30 companies, also some or other movements keep on happening. Say, for example, the company's performance has been very good. Okay, the future direction that the companies have given was very, optimistic. And because of which, the prices of these shares move up. Though on macro level, you will not find anything happening. But because of some past events, the company has given very good results, or they have given, future predictions, they have given very good. And because of which share prices have moved up. Sometimes what happens that the company's performance have not been so good. And even the future direction they have given was not good. And because of which, some of the stocks in that basket might have fallen, and because of which Sensex fall. Though on macro level, you may not see much of the things happening. That's the one point. The second point is that, you suddenly will not see a lot of changes happening, but some of the policy matters have been, policies have been stipulated by the government, or some international events have happened, okay, and which has, determined the fund flow into the country or out of the country. And when this liquidity pump into the country or liquidity is sucked out of the country, you will see the Sensex moving accordingly. So there are many factors most of the time which determines the Sensex. Though present situation, you might be thinking that nothing is happening, still why the Sensex is moving. But because it's moving, because it's not only dependent on one factor, it depends on multiple factors. There are some companies which have given very, great performance, or may not have given great performance, because of which their prices have fallen or gone up, and which has impacted the Sensex. The second thing may be that, they might have given some future projections or future direction, because of which, investors became positive into those companies and the share prices has gone up and the Sensex has moved up. Or their future projections, they have given, downside, and because of which Sensex has fallen. And the third, maybe, in the international arena, say, for example, dollar has become strong. and US interest rate has gone up, and because of which the foreign investors have thought of moving the funds out of the country and start investing in US dollars or US bonds, and you will see suddenly that the broader market falling and even the Sensex stocks falling, and because of which you will see the Sensex also coming down. Or there may be vice versa, where the bond yield might have reduced, or US dollar, the investors have become pessimistic, and because of which the funds have started moving into the better country where the investors can see better returns. They start pumping the money in our country, and you may see that Sensex going up. So these are the various factors which determine in which directions the Sensex movement will take place.
Thanks a lot. In fact, you have thrown adequate light for our viewers to take a note of, the enlightened comment of Shri Ajay Thakurji, who is well versed in terms of exploring, in terms of operating in the stock exchange market. And his answer, he is very much giving a proper, overview of the movement of Sensex. So thank you, sir, for giving us a very comprehensive view on it. So Ajayji, since you already mentioned in course of your, comments that you happen to trace your genesis from Bihar. I also do trace my genesis from Bihar. Most importantly, I would like to know, because I remember having raised a question to Dr. Shri Jain Singh Ji, who at that point in time was the Chief Secretary of Gujarat. Now we are coming to a very important question of entrepreneurship, because you are presiding over the destiny of SME, and of course you are the pioneer of startups. So now it's a very important question about entrepreneurship, because my question then to the Chief Secretary, the then Chief Secretary, was that given that in Gujarat, what I have observed, that there is a tremendous penchant or predilection for the youth to go for entrepreneurship. In fact, there is some sort of their fire, as you very correctly used a particular phrase, that is a fire in belly. So I have seen the Gujarati youth having fire in their bellies. But when I compare, rather when I contrast the same attitude in our youth in Bihar and West Bengal and other parts of the Eastern India, in fact, that sort of attitude is completely missing. And in this context, I would like to quote the statement of Honorable Prime Minister. The Honorable Prime Minister, in course of his visit to Darbhanga, had made a very categorical statement. And I would like to just quote Mr. Prime Minister. He said that although I salute Darbhanga, because Darbhanga has produced all great scholars in different ages and eras, but when it comes to the entrepreneurship, Darbhanga has failed to produce any worthy entrepreneur even till date, because there is a mad craze among the youth of Bihar, Bengal to land into a government job. So such an attitude as I found in Gujarat, and which is very much discernible in Gujarat, where the youth have the inherent tendency to set up their own businesses, to go for entrepreneurship. But unfortunately, such a mindset is completely absent in Bihar. It is rather, you can say, in other words, it is very much conspicuous by its absence in the entire eastern region. So how do you, having come from Bihar, you made a very interesting observation that you love taking risks, and therefore you don't want a very passive sort of life, a sedate sort of life, because you're always into risk taking, and that only brought you from Bihar to Mumbai, and today you have become a jar of stock exchange, means capital market. So how do you explain this contrasting attitude, and what is the panacea for cure, especially among the youth of our eastern region? Sir, your take on this, sir.
Thank you for asking this question. Most of the times also keep on, being surprised that, why we are unable to, create a lot of entrepreneurs in our state. We need to understand the landscape of Bihar. Okay, I'm not going in, prior to independence, but last 40, 50 years. And not only in Bihar, but across the country, if you see the community which are more into business side, are Gujaratis, Marwadis, Sindhis, and Parsis. These are the four communities which commands, or even you can say Jains. These are the people who commands maximum business. And then it is being, other people who are doing a small business like Punjabis and all those people. But most of the business culture is being found in these communities. Now, when it comes to Bihar, if you see the state, it has been an agrarian state. Bihar has been always by, being the agrarian state, where more agricultural lands are there. We have seen a lot of farmers. And then it was, there was, in the government PSUs across in the state. And, slowly and slowly what we found that people were more become, job oriented, like rather than business oriented. And slowly the culture has shifted from entrepreneurship to the service mindset. So this has happened. In fact, even if you take our fathers or even forefathers, they have always taught us to take service, don't take risk. So this was inculcated in our mind. Now the thing is that new generation has to take over. Now, new generation need to understand that it's not the service, it's also the entrepreneurship that we have to inculcate. In case the earlier generation, if they have not started doing business, at least they need to motivate and encourage their children to take the business as a profession. So unless until there is a culture shift in the state, will not find development of entrepreneurship. Okay, and at the same time, I also suggest that the entrepreneurs in the state needs to be given some sort of funding, some sort of tax incentives. And if these things will start happening, with the change in attitude, with the change in thinking, with the encouragement and motivation of the family members, no one can stop. Because see, intellectual power of the state guys have never been into question. We know that they have great intellectual power. But that risk-taking, more than risk-taking, I think the culture shift is going to create more entrepreneurship into the minds of the young generation than anything else. So I think if these things will be brought, you will see that, more and more entrepreneurs will get created.
Thank you, Ajay ji. In fact, you threw an adequate light on it, because it is, of course, the cultural mindset which has to undergo some sort of metamorphosis. Because in order to have a wide-scale mindset change, we need to have, a substantive, substantive teaching or substantive benefits of being an entrepreneur has to be injected in the minds of the vast section of the youth. Because so far as youth, they are all not at all have the mindset of taking risk, or they fail to appreciate the overall values that the business has come to produce in other states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, other parts of the country. So of course, your point is absolutely right, because even there is a huge craze for cracking civil services, and people, they go on wasting year after year, but they continue, in the pursuit of their key areas of landing up with the government job, even if they fail in IAS examination. So mindset change is required. Of course, you made it a point. Now, coming to the point, because since you are an architect of startups, and mostly you are the person in 2012 to have given the startup a tangible shape. So what exactly are the ingredients for someone to kickstart his so-called startup? Because startup means it is an entrepreneurial venture, where a person's mindset is to create something new, to be innovative in his own creation. So what exactly are the prerequisites for qualifying as a startup? Because we have, so many thousands of viewers who are watching or will watch later. So what exactly are your tips for the startups so that they can make up their mind and they ultimately, they go into entrepreneurship? So your take on this.
So Vivekanand, just one thing to tell you here, that in 2012, I have launched the SME platform. And in 2018, I have launched the startup platform. And both are related to entrepreneurship. See, the thing is that over the years in the stock exchange, if you see the earlier years, whether you talk about Reliance, Infosys, or any company, they were all a small company which get listed, raise funds through equity dilution, and then they become large corporates. But at the same time, we have seen that, some of the businessmen, some of the promoters, they have come to the stock exchange, may not be with good intention, or maybe straight away, or maybe carried away by so-called operators. And they have run away with the funds of the investors, and there was a huge loss to the investor. And therefore, the regulatory bodies, both the stock exchange side and the SEBI side, we have made the guidelines very much stringent, with lot of compliances come into picture. And because of which, a small, medium, it became almost impossible for small and medium enterprises to get listed onto the stock exchange and raise funds by diluting their equity. So in 2010, Industrial Association, especially the Small Industrial Association, have approached to the Prime Minister, suggesting them to start one SME exchange so that small and medium enterprises can raise equity funds by diluting their equity at minimal cost, and where the compliances should also be minimal. And therefore, at that point of time, Mr. Principal Secretary was Mr. T.K. Nair, and under him a committee was established, and that committee suggested to start this SME exchange, and they requested SEBI to frame guidelines. So in 2010, SEBI has framed the guidelines for SME exchange, and requested the stock exchange to launch this SME exchange. So we, being the exchange creating the equity culture in the country, we understand the importance of equity for the businessmen, for the promoters. And therefore, we became the first stock exchange to get the approval from SEBI for launching this platform. And on 13th March 2012, we launched the platform. So the first thing that we have done was to start the SME platform. Now, why we have started the SME platform? And let me tell you, there was a lot of pessimism when we were trying to launch this SME platform. The reason being was that, earlier in 89, OTCI was launched. And OTCI was launched only to ensure that the SME companies of the country should be able to raise funds by equity dilution. But it was much ahead of the time. The guidelines, the processes, everything was much ahead of the time. And therefore, it was not able to do something good. And let me tell you, between 92 to 96 was not even good for the economy. Economy was not so much in the bad shape, and the small and medium enterprises were not doing well. And therefore, when we were launching the SME platform, more or less the guidelines were same. I have to go through the very tough challenges. Okay, because as an exchange, we can't do anything. We are regulated. We can provide the platform, but the intermediaries, the companies have to show comfort level, have to show confidence on the platform to allow the SME platform to succeed. Unfortunately, at that point of time, seeing the regulations, seeing the challenges, none of the intermediaries were coming forward. And because the intermediaries were not coming forward, therefore, we were unable to get the company list. So we have to do a lot of hard work to ensure that this SME platform succeeds. And fortunately, let me tell you, first 2-3 years, it was very challenging, but later on it take off. And today, if you see, BSE alone has got 340 SMEs listed, and almost 200 SMEs are listed on NSE Merge. So it's because of the hard work that we have done at the exchange level, both from my side, the BSE MD also, everybody, the whole collective team effort, that we have taken this to the next level. Let me also tell you one thing, that in last 7 to 8 years, when it comes to, creating, because in our country, the major problem is lack of financial literacy. Still most of the people don't understand the nuances of finances. Now, SEBI under recent report has said that only 23% of the Indian population are financially literate. But let me tell you, when it comes to managing the finances from on the corporate level, it is hardly 0.01%. Okay, they don't understand how to manage debt and equity to run the company smoothly, especially in the SME categories and the startup categories. In these categories, promoters are technocrat in nature. They are unable to understand how all those things. So in last 7-8 years, we have done 2,200 seminars, 300 webinars we have done. And after meeting 36,000 SME promoters, we have been able to convert 500 SMEs and get listed. Now, when you were talking about my profile, let me tell you, on the SME companies, These 340 SMEs have raised 3,520 crores. 3,520 crores rupees they have raised. And today the market capitalization is 30,100 crores. I'm talking about BSE only. When you take NSE also together, it may be around 50,000 crores, 55,000 crores together, a 500 company. This is unprecedented. Nobody can think of that in such a small period we can do. So this we have done. Now coming to a startup. In 2018, after seeing the success of the SME platform and understanding the importance of startup for our country, because during our deliberation we are talking about creating entrepreneurship culture in our country. Fortunately, through this startup mode, we are trying to create that culture. And let me tell you, today, India is the third largest destination of the startups. Almost 50,000 startups are registered with DIPPT as a startup. And maybe, maybe informally, there may be many more other startups who are working, though they may not be registered. So we thought that, let us, because though a startup gets fund from PE, VC, and angel investors, but still many startups are there who are not getting funds. And our job was to provide them a platform through which they can raise funds at a minimal cost, at minimal compliances, and take the company to the next level, make them unicorns. And therefore, in 2018, we come out with the guidelines on the startup platform. And let me tell you, in 2019, August, for all practical purpose, the startup platform started when 2 startups got listed. And till today, let me tell you, we have got 10 startups listed on our startup platform, which have raised almost 35 crores, and the market capitalization has grown to 100 crores. And this we have done even when, we have got 1.5 years of COVID era, because, documentation, paperwork, and all those things become very difficult. And therefore, to meet these startups, and startups connecting to the investors have become very difficult. But still we ensured that at least 10 startups should get listed, and another 5-6 startups should be in line to make this startup platform also a vibrant platform.
It's so nice that you have given us the details of your own achievement in terms of the raising finance from the market for the SMEs. Ajay ji, one thing I would like to know, because you are telling us about the SEBI, the regulator of the capital market. Now, with the economic liberalization having taken place in 1991, with the dawn of Narasimha Rao's era, and even SEBI came into existence in the year 1992, and you see the stock exchange, the biggest scam that happened after, just in the wake of SEBI coming into existence, that of Harshad Mehta, later we had Ketan Parikh, and so many scams are going on. So even with the coming into existence of regulator, that is SEBI, how do you explain this paradox? Because on the one hand, the regulator has entered the market to regulate the market, to ensure that the investment of the middle class people or lower middle class people are not getting diluted, are not getting lost, not getting eroded. But at the same time, we have seen the biggest of stock scams. The scams hit the market after SEBI came into existence. So how do you reconcile this paradox? Your take on this?
No, I have heard one home minister saying that 99 times you can stop the terrorist, but even one time if they become successful, they can create havoc. The problem is that even if sometimes something gets missed, it hogs the limelight, but hundreds of good things being done that never come into limelight. So these type of things happen. Let me tell you, when you are talking about Harshad Mehta scam, at that point of time, the SEBI was formed. It has not got a statutory status, and it was just in the very transition stage. It was very initial stage that. So 92 think we can't, take into consideration. Then that scam was also related to, banking and all those things. Okay. So, but after that, once SEBI becomes the statutory body, let me tell you, it has done extraordinary work. It has done excellent jobs. The way the regulatory, the way the stock market transformed, it is unprecedented. Let me tell you, in the world, I think SEBI has been considered as the best regulatory body. So many share companies coming into the market, market capitalization, what was there in 92. Today, if you see, it's $3.1 trillion market capitalization. Everything going on smoothly. Even in this COVID era, if you see, there was no technical glitch as far as BSE is concerned. If you see the dematerialization, there was a time when everything was physically traded. Shares were physically traded. India became the first country to do the dematerialization of the shares in record time. And it was because, and let me tell you, it has transformed the whole system. If you talk about online trading platform, it has been done on the record time. Okay. When we talk about settlement, there was a time when it was 1 month settlement. It has brought down to T+2. That is also on rolling basis. And let me tell you, so many great things have happened. SEDR guidelines have come into the picture to, regulate the IPO market, to the offering of shares. Brokers were regulated, sub-brokers were regulated. So many things they have done to plug the holes into the whole capital market system. Today, the surveillance system of the stock exchanges and SEBI is one of the best in the world. So I think that 1 or 2 cases here and there in the history of capital market, I think that we need to be ignored, where trillions of rupees are being traded. I think what the best thing has been done for the capital market, the way the capital market has been transformed by SEBI, must need to be given the due credit.
It's so nice of you to have explained in detail. Ajay, what exactly is your take on primary and secondary market? Especially in case of Indian initial public offering, do you think that market is behaving, very positively in terms of, especially in case of the new ventures, because those who are very established ventures, the larger public have a faith in them. But when it's a case of a new venture, especially from the perspective of SME, because you are the director of BSE are presiding over SMEs affairs. So don't you think that in case of SMEs, when they are bringing a new, they are going for the initial public offering, there is some sort of, a sense of pessimism, a sense of diffidence, in terms of the company which is trying to secure money or trying to secure the market for from the point of view of IPO. So what exactly, how these apprehension in the minds of the investors pertaining to that of new ventures, from unknown people can be avoided or can be set at rest? And what are the mechanisms to ensure confidence, in investors to invest in such organizations which are mostly unheard of and which are the cases of the startups? How do you kindly your take on this?
Vivekanand, you are right. When it comes in terms of small, medium enterprises and startups, to create confidence is really difficult. We need to understand one thing, sir, and it has happened with all companies. It's not like that the SME company, even those companies which got listed in the earlier era, when the SME platform was not there and the market regulation was not so stringent, even at that point of time, to raise the funds for the lesser node company has been always difficult. See, equity is the riskiest instrument, and to create, because it is not being backed by any collateral. It's not like bank funding. When you take the case of bank funding, it is backed by collateral. Promoters get the interest. They see the cash. The bankers get the interest. They see the cash flow on the balance sheet, whether that cash flow is able to service the bank debts or not. And then they take the call whether the loan should be given or not. When it comes to equity, it is not being backed by any physical assets, nor the investors get any interest. So they have to look into the, therefore there is a trust deficit. Need to understand, therefore there is a trust deficit. So how that trust can be built up? Number one, the promoters should have that caliber. The promoters should have that bandwidth to present their case properly. They should be able to tell the promoter what is the sustainability of the company, how the company's business is going to be scalable, how there will be cash flow, whether there will be some losses or not. If these things the promoters are able to explain to the investors, I think the investors don't have any any dot in the mind whether to invest into those companies or not. We have seen SME companies where the promoters, when they were able to project everything properly and able to convince the investors properly, investors were ready to put the funds. It has happened. But if investors are unable to convince, it's a hard-earned money of anyone, which is not being backed by anything, and no, it's not some sort of secure thing. And therefore, if the promoters are unable to convince the investors will always hesitate to fund into those companies. Even when the market is not good, even the large corporates find it difficult to attract money into their company. So these things keep on happening. But let me tell you, initially the promoters have to dilute 25%. So promoters have to keep the IPO, if they are a small company, they have to keep the valuations looks attractive initially, so that initially investors can take or should be in a position to take the risk. Slowly, because initially the dilution is only 25%, the promoters have the bandwidth, promoters have got sufficient equity in their hand to dilute further. Once the company's valuation goes up, once they have some track record of in the listed space, at a higher valuation, they can, dilute their shares further. Not only that, it's not one-time exercise. A stock market is never one-time exercise. Once you can come with initial public offer, then you can think of coming with follow-on public offer. You can also issue rights shares. You can also issue preferential shares. So there are different ways to raise future funds or raise the funds in the future time. So I don't think that, promoters need to worry on that. But promoters keep two things in the mind, that they have to convince the investors initially because they don't have track record. They are a small company. That's number one. They have to keep the valuation attractive so that investors should enter into the company. Then they should bring better performance in the years to come. And if in 2-3 years their performance are good, I am quite sure that the investors will give them the money at a higher valuation, even at high premium also.
Okay. Now, actually, I would just like to know, because since you have been, you gave us such an encouraging picture pertaining to that of SMEs, means having accessed the market and raised such a huge amount of funds. So, but indeed, you have to appreciate that there are scores of, scores of entrepreneurs today who are on the lookout for the appropriate funds. And because of either on account of lack of the sufficient knowledge or on account of lack of sufficient courage, they are backing out from going ahead with their plans for these startups. So in this scenario, so being an expert in this field, having already access, funds for SMEs, especially in terms of the startups and all that, what would be your advice to such entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs in the future, that if they have innovative ideas, if they have some sound, foolproof plans, and of course, if they don't have funds, and for that, of course, there are so many institutions which are very much open to provide them with, with a desired amount of funds. So what should be your message to them? What should be the chronological steps for them to, access the funds, to go stepwise, and don't feel the hurdles or the burden of such an unconscionable amount of risk being a barrier towards their progress in terms of landing up as an entrepreneur, in terms of being a successful entrepreneur? What should be those chronological steps, please, for all our viewers who intend to be entrepreneurs in their future?
Vivekanandji, I always encourage the SME promoters, even the startup promoters. We keep on meeting the SME promoters and the startup promoters, and we try to convince them to get listed. Let me tell you, from the promoter side, most of the hesitance come because of the compliances. Okay, they feel that if they get listed, they have to do lots of compliances, and they feel that they are not ready to do the compliances. Through your channel and for the benefits of those promoters, let me tell you that we have framed the guidelines, which are very simple and very easy to follow and fulfill. These eligibility criteria we have kept minimal. These companies, by meeting these eligibility criteria, they can get listed. We have had got 3-4 eligibility criteria for this for the companies to get listed. Number one, the company needs to be in existence for at least 3 years. Number two, in any one of the 3 years, the company need to have operating profit. And number three, the net tangible asset of the company should be 1.5 crores. So if they are meeting these 3 eligibility criteria, they can get listed onto the SME platform of the stock exchange. So the eligibility criteria, we have kept the minimal. Okay, for the startup, again, we say that if you are a tech company, anything that you are doing pertaining to the technology, you can get listed. However, you need to be in existence for minimum period of 2 years. They need to be registered as a startup with DIPPT. In case they are not registered as a startup, then their paid up capital needs to be 1 crore. And number 4, their net worth should be positive. So if you see the criteria as for both a startup, eligibility criteria for both startups and the SME, we have kept the minimal. Any SME can get listed on our SME platform. Any startup can get listed if they have completed 2 years in operation. So we have kept the guidelines very simple. Not only that, the biggest fear that we have seen, and which is the biggest hurdle for the SME promoters to get listed, and which is in their mind, they have created a myth in their mind that they have to do lots of compliances. In fact, when we were formalizing the policy, at that point of time only we know that SME promoters or the startup promoters don't have that much of bandwidth to do so many compliances. So we have reduced the compliances to the minimum. What we are saying that half yearly you have to file unaudited results with limited review, and yearly you have to file audited results, and half yearly shareholding pattern and yearly shareholding pattern. So these are very simple compliances that these promoters have to do. And let me tell you, in all these companies which are got listed onto the stock exchange, they find it very simple to do compliances. So, and not only that, we have told the promoters that we are going to give you red carpet welcome. We will do the hand holding of you people. You don't have to worry at any point of time. Subject to you are working under the regulatory framework of the stock exchange, SEBI, and the government. So if you are doing under those bandwidth, we are there to support you. We are there to help you. We are there to guide you.
Okay. So now the moot question comes because, even in the beginning, I just raised my own, skepticism, especially in the context of the shrinking job opportunities at the government level. And given, as you already explained, because the sort of mindset that prevails almost across India or at the substantial part of India, especially in Eastern zone and even in southern part of India, where people are all increased, they all invariably and inevitably, they look forward to the government jobs as such. And jobs are shrinking drastically. Now again, I'm coming back, rather I'm emphasizing on this particular word, that is entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is the only, it has to be the order of the day. People will have to increasingly go and explore their own respective businesses if they want to survive, because the government jobs are shrinking and, just coming to a minimum level. Only few people, millions will be chasing it, only it will come to hundreds, finally landing up with a job. So it is a time for entrepreneurship. That is what exactly you too have been emphasizing on, and what Prime Minister time and time again has been trying to educate the people, trying to, highlight this particular fact that entrepreneurship remains, the sine qua non for employment. Now, or for, you become the job giver, not only the job seeker, but most importantly, you become the job giver. That sense of pride comes with the entrepreneurship. There is no denying the fact. But now the question I would like to ask, on behalf of the multitude, I'm using this word multitude, because people, they don't take to business, or they are hesitant or reluctant in terms of embracing business. There are several factors for that. One factor is obviously the risk factor is of course there. Second is the sort of mindset. In Gujarat, I have seen a businessman who owns shop. His son has no hesitation in sitting in the shop and taking over the business of his father. But same thing cannot be replicated either in Bihar or West Bengal. or in Odisha, where people have, people look upon business, which as something inferior to the government jobs as such. But given the depletion in the government jobs, and entrepreneurship too is not welcome as yet across the country, barring exceptions. So what exactly would be your advice to the, to such a proliferating population of youth in the country today, what they should do and how they should explore the entrepreneurship arena? That is, your vision on this. Please, your take.
Vivekananda, you are right that India needs to produce a lot of job creators. We have the highest young population. And when it comes to young population, we have got the demographic dividend. But at the same time, we need to understand that if the young population will not be given the job, it may create, law and order situation in the country, and there will be chaos everywhere. So, of course, we need to create we need to create a lot of jobs. We need to ensure that not only job seekers, but job creators need to be created. That's number one. Number two, we have to ensure that the existing companies keep on growing. Okay, especially those companies which are manpower intensive. Okay, not only service sector, not only startups, but even those companies which are into manufacturing or ancillary automobiles. These companies need to be ensured that there should be huge growth in this company, and only then these people will. And say, for example, government focus has gone on infrastructure sector. Again, infrastructure sector, if it will grow, it will give a lot of employment to the people. So I think a lot of things need to be created. Number one, we have to ensure that new entrepreneurs gets created. And whatever way we can support, for example, from the stock exchange side, we are supporting. From the bank side, there needs to be a lot of support. And they are also trying to come out with different type of, loan formulas so that they can provide it to the, even the startups, to the companies. And so that, they can grow. Even SIDBI has created a big fund, and they have been given 10,000 crore rupees from the government of India to fund the various AIFs, Alternative Investment Fund or venture funds, so that they in future, so going forward, they should also fund the startups. So a lot of funding options are open for the startups. And not only that, let me tell you, to start the business is not the only thing that they have to look into. They have to ensure that these startups should get converted into big companies, large corporates. Not only today, a startup has become a buzzword, but a startup is good only when it becomes successful. And we need to ensure that they should be successful not only in terms of top line, but bottom line also. Their profit also needs to be brought into, so that they should also contribute to the treasury of the country. So all these things needs to be done. All the stakeholders have to work in a collaborative manner so as to ensure that this business culture, this entrepreneurship culture should be encouraged, should be motivated, and should be made sustainable and successful.
Could you please throw some light on the various opportunities in the capital market, both in the primary as well as secondary sector, for the professionals? What sort of professionals are required for these primary as well as secondary market, and what sort of studies they are required to do, and how they can select capital market as a career? From the career perspective, what studies they are required to do, because there are thousands of youth in the country today who do not know exactly what opportunities do exist in the capital market. So how would you like to guide them, please?
So the opportunity in the capital market is immense. Let me tell you, today we have got almost 3,000 members who are registered with BSE. In the same way, there are a lot of merchant bankers. Okay, there are so many, research companies. There are many fund houses. Okay, so there are a lot of institutions. Okay, stock exchanges, depositories are there. Even registrars are there. So all these people are the parts of the capital market, and everywhere this professional can get this job. Okay, they can start a career. Now, what they can do? Normally, these people induct the persons who are MBA finance or who are charter accountant, cost accountant. So anybody who has taken the finance profession can get the job here. Even some of the people after doing the engineering, they do the MBA. They are also being, attracted by this company. So I think that all these professionals who have done the education in finance have got huge opportunity into the capital market into various segments. Besides that, BSc Training Institute, and there are other other institutions also who gives, education specifically related to the capital market. And they are 1 year course, 6 months course like that. Even these kids can take those courses and, become an expert in the capital market related, segments. So I think stock exchange and the capital market give immense opportunity to finance professionals to start their career in their capital market.
Thank you, Shri Ajay Thakur ji, to all my viewers who have joined this Education Pe Charcha on Vidyadan's platform. You all have heard the enlightened thought of our expert today, our honored guest, Shri Ajay Thakur ji. And most importantly, what he said is of huge relevance. Indeed, this is the case because financial literacy, about which he dropped sufficient hints, is very much lacking in our country. Therefore, all big financial crimes get unnoticed because, the sort of importance or significance that are needed to be attached to such crimes, they almost, get unnoticed because people are not concerned, not conscious about the adequacy of financial literacy. And therefore, what Shri Ajay Thakur ji, the director of Bombay Stock Exchange SME, with the experience of overall 26 years, has sought to enlighten all of us today on the various facets, aspects, and dimensions of capital market. I'm sure it must have helped all my viewers who have been, hearing the espousal of enlightened thoughts of Shri Ajay Thakur ji, and those who are eventually going to hear these very enlightened views, the sort of with a holistic vision being unfolded by one of the jars of capital market, is definitely going to immensely help all my viewers, because Education Pe Charcha is meant for bringing all sort of information, knowledge-based information from different sectors of education. Today, we invited Shri Ajay Thakur ji, one of the jars of capital market, to enlighten our viewers, pertaining to the capital opportunities available in capital market. And he has very rightly expressed his views that how the financial, the professors like chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, most of the other financial, those who are pursuing MBA finance, they can make the best out of these capital market opportunities, which are very much available on a platter. It is only the matter of lack of information which is preventing many of the potential candidates who could make up a good careers in the capital market. It is all on account of lack of adequate information that they are somehow, being derailed from achieving their goal, their objective, their mission and vision in life. So today, Shri Ajay Thakur ji, a jar, as I already said, of the capital market has given us, multiple information. And he has said those information not based on theoretical perspective, those information which are based on his own solid work. And that too, he very categorically said that having come from the remotest part of Bihar, from which I too belong, he had the remotest of idea when he landed up in Mumbai as to what exactly is, is the capital market all about. But then his determination, his iron determination to carve out a special niche for himself, so that he can teach to the entire world through his own lifetime experience that capital market indeed offers a huge opportunities for our youth today. So all of us should look upon the capital market with a lot of hope and optimism, because even Ajay ji says that even in these turbulent times when the cataclysmic crisis has struck the entire world today, capital market remains, provides us with a glimmer of hope. It remains a harbinger for new hope that our youth definitely can explore this very, very adventurous profession and try to, make a capital out of it. My dear viewers, so, in our very next Saturday's program on 17th, we are inviting the former Chief Secretary of Gujarat, both the longest serving Chief Secretary of Gujarat, and alumnus of JNU, Dr. Shri Singh Ji, one of the best, most, you can say, best IS officers of all time, will come to share his own experience, his own expertise, his own myriad ways, how he, took IS as his profession, and how he virtually, with so much fame, he laid down his office, means he retired as one of the most successful chief secretaries in the history of, in the history of the country. So therefore, we look up to Dr. Singh Ji for providing his own ideas, his own vision to all the IS aspirants and all the students who are competing for the government jobs or any competitions. But today we have had a great opportunity of learning the capital market, exploring the capital market through the eyes of one of the very insiders of the capital market. I could not, he has a, ocean of knowledge. Since the time constant is there, I could not, probe him into revealing much of insider trading and all that because of the paucity of time. Definitely, we can look forward to inviting him again in the future so that he can shed some light on the insider trading and all those parts. But today, I welcome you, sir. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for enlightening all of us on the multiple aspects, dimensions of capital market. I am so much thankful on behalf of all the viewers. I thank you, sir, profusely for giving us a precise idea as to how capital market behaves, what are its exact functions, how it contributes to the economy of the nation, and what exactly is the Sensex, the barometer for ascertaining the overall efficacy of our economy. So thanks a lot. Thank you, sir. Shri Ajay Thakur ji. With my folded hand, I extend my my gratitude. I communicate my gratitude on behalf of all my viewers. Thank you, sir. Thank you, my viewers. This is Education Pe Charcha by Vivekanand Jha, author, academician, and public intellectual on Vidya Dan's platform. Now, again, I bid you goodbye. Again to meet on Saturday, next Saturday on 17th, again at 7 p.m.